during the Depression, you know, everybody had it tough. And the way the farmers made out with that was, there was a lot of moonshining going on in Busselltown. Y'all have stories
I don't
about
have any
that?
stories about moonshine. That's not someplace my mother would let me wander.
Yeah.
I wandered all around when I could till he was born. I'm older than he is. But then it got more freedom when he was born because mother had more attention for him.
One fellow who's still alive and living in Busselltown, he, in his 90s, he said, well, there were areas you just knew not to wander into.
That's right.
Down by the spring and at a certain spot, that you knew there was a lot of moonshine there. And then he told a great story of taking a sort of a walk as a kid. He was, seemingly he stayed at home a lot. This wasn't a real active boy. But he took a walk through the woods and came across 4 men sitting cross-legged in the woods with a whatever, maybe a fruit jar of moonshine, playing cards, you know, which I just thought was a wonderful story.
Yeah.
Of, they had their own man cave out there in,
That's
in
the
the
sort
woods.
And many people didn't travel in there, in that area.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You had the one road, right?
Mizell Cave was over in that area,
Okay.
known for a family name, Mizell.
Yeah.
Most of that area was covered up by the Tellico Dam project.
Yeah.
If the dam itself sat pretty close to Bussell Island, and the river itself is limited now, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but just a short distance. There's a small bridge below the dam, and you could look to your right, and there's a short distance of about maybe less than a mile before it gets to the Tennessee River that's remaining of the Little Tennessee River.
Okay.
Because the dam covered up the rest of it.
But I'll get into it a little bit, but since it's on my mind, so I won't forget it because I don't have it written down. I know where you got on the ferry in Lenore City, but where was it on the Busselltown side? Where was the ferry? Is it covered now by water?
The
No.
bus stand was straight across.
It's straight across.
If you're going on the bridge, it's to the right of the big
It's to
bridge.
the right of the bridge.
Okay, just,
Right.
okay, it went to the
If you
right.
extended the route of the, and I say route rather than route, route of the 321 straight, rather than going across the dam as it used to go, or go across the bridge, the new bridge, the 4-lane bridge. If you went straight, rather than kind of bearing to your right, you would come to where the embankment was for the ferry on the Busselltown side.
Okay.
That ferry was notorious around this.
Well, since all of you lived in Busselltown,
Well, I loved Busselltown.
so what did your parents do for a living?
When my dad drove to the air base, this is in the 50s though. So
Yeah.
This was, he drove to the air base in Maryville where he did air conditioning work.
Okay.
As a civil service person.
And your mom, tell us about your mom.
But we ended up there because of my mom's interest in teaching Bible stories to children. And that brought her to East Tennessee. She met a woman in Greenback. But then a woman who lived in Busselltown came there to Greenback and invited us to move our trailer into Busselltown. And it turned out both my mother and this woman, Ethel Thompson, who was 20 years older than my mom, had both gone to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. So
Yeah.
they had this bond, which held them together. So.
Dad even drove a school bus. Our father drove a school bus. See, when they opened that up, they had transportation for youngsters, and they bid on that, and Daddy bid the lowest. $100 for a route from Busselltown to Greenback.
Really?
That was back during the Great Depression,
Okay.
in about 1931 or 32, because Betsy was born in 1932.
I'm 88.
So your parents were in Busselltown when you were born? Okay.
They'd been
Yes.
there for 6 years. But Jack likes to tell everybody I'm 88. I ain't 88.
She's almost 89.
Almost 80. So, what are your memories of Busselltown growing up? What was it like to live there?
I didn't really live there long enough. I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Well, it was a very very isolated place. Cause see, the river isolated us, and everybody knew what they did, and we had a dirt road that passed by, and going to the store was a big deal for me.
Sure.
But the fellow that owned the house, and I've got to tell this because I think this is funny, his wife came and told us we'd have to get out, that her husband wanted to come home to die. So we had to build a house down the river, down close to the
That was
dam.
before your family built their own house, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was before I was born.
Before you were, okay, in those early years.
Jack, what was it like for you growing up in Busselltown?
Well, when you asked that question, I spent very little time there except entertaining myself. I really didn't have any friends. I went to Greenback to grade school and went to high school, Lenore City High School.
Okay.
And I have better and more memories of riding the bus all the way to, my daddy drove all the way to Greenback School, and my mother wouldn't let me associate with too many people from Busselltown.
I was going to tell you that. There were nice people in Busselltown, nice people that.
That's one of the reasons I had to entertain myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have any friends. The Bussell family lived further toward the river, toward the Tennessee River, than we did, and Bobby was mentally incapable of really having any friends. That was our youngest son,
Okay.
and I guess he died. Betsy, I don't remember when he died. He wasn't very old. I know that.
No, he was about 13 or 14 when he died.
And so that was the closest neighbor we had, and especially that had boys. And he was my age, but the other people in the community I wasn't permitted to really associate with.
The Methodist church you were speaking about, the pastor there, they brought in a woman to live in the community and like a missionary to try to improve the.
That was in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah,
Okay.
Before we got
They
there.
were going
I
to give
think.
it a new name. It was part of her duty,
Okay.
was to give it a new name. It was to be the Fort Loudon town.
Okay.
Well, she
Fort Loudon
didn't.
Village, I think you said.
She didn't really turn out to be the kind of person that could organize a community, and she didn't turn into like the principal of the Busselltown school. They dragged some poor old man down there to get it straightened out. I think he lived in Greenback, and the person that usually told the story about him coming down to straighten the people of Busselltown out said, bless God, they dragged him in with him. And they did. I mean, pretty soon he was a Busselltowner rather than being somebody that's going to straighten up the school and make the community a better place to live, which is what the person that you're talking about, and the one that Patsy referred to, is coming in somewhere in the mid-50s. They didn't have much success.
Yeah. But how